All right, y'all. What's good, everybody? What's good? Who it is? If you don't know who it is, I'll go by the name of B. Moses. The B is short for Bartholomew Benjamin. I'm kidding. It's not. But anyway, check it out. So this will be my 2021 Ohio State football season in review slash 2022 preview. So I got a lot to cover. I'm gonna try to do it in short time or as quickly as possible. I may even break this up. Matter of fact, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna break this up into 3 videos, so that I'll post each one little by little to digest and make it a little easier. I know our attention span nowadays ain't that great, so I give it to you little by little. But out the gate, man. I got my little trusty notepad, my list here. So the first thing we're gonna talk about as we review the 2021 season is the new starting quarterback we broke in. The young man, Mr. Heisman candidate C.J. Stroud. So those who follow my page, you already know what I'm on, man. I've been pretty much pushing back haters and trying to give some perspective all season on this young man as he developed as a new starting quarterback, never throwing a pass in a collegiate game going into that Minnesota game on the road. So there's one thing I want to share. This is just an overall general perspective. Is I came into the season, and I'm just giving you my thinking and why I think the way I think, specifically with CJ Stroud and why I've defended him. It's because going into the year, we all knew that we were going to have a new starting quarterback. Not just that, but every candidate that was available had never thrown a pass in college. Okay? So already I started to bake in expectations of some bumpiness, some growing pains, but yet know the ceiling was high on guys like Stroud and McCord, especially, just off of rankings alone. In the skill set. So with Stroud, it wasn't so much about Stroud as it was me understanding with him being the new starter that there was going to be some growing pains. So I wasn't as quick to just say yank him or get rid of him or bench him because I saw the talent, but I also understood that it was going to be some tough moments as well. So I think for you listeners out there, I'm just trying to share some game with you, some wisdom. What I believe is wisdom across the board is if you set your expectations properly, then you probably won't, react so poorly. Because some of you, let's be honest, reacted poorly. Some worse than others. But to the young man CJ Stroud. So with that said, yes, early on, there were some times, you saw he needs to develop in this area. And I mean, clearly. But as we can see, a whole season of development, we have seen what he has developed into. And if you yank the kid, off of, in my opinion, an unbalanced view of what he did on the field, even early on, there were a lot of people, in my opinion, that were just jumping on the negative or even perceived negative and just ignoring the positive, blaming him for the Oregon loss when he threw for 484 yards and we couldn't establish the run. And we literally aren't in the game without his arm in the throwing to those receivers. And we couldn't stop a nosebleed. So, stuff like that. But if you have the understanding and perspective of this kid has talent, he needs to develop. Oh, and by the way, our defense has not improved from 2020. It's worse, actually. So you got that as well. So with that said, for the recap for CJ Stroud, as a first-year starter, I thought he had a great year in the perspective of a first-year starter, and he developed over time, and he ended that boy out magnificently in the Rose Bowl, which we're going to get to a little later as well. So, as far as the Oregon loss, I mentioned the Oregon loss. The Oregon loss, I was at that game. I was in the stadium, and man, it was tough to watch that defense not be able to get stops, consistently. And the thing about it was, it wasn't just Oregon was just so much better, and we were doing elementary, things on the defensive side of the ball that were just inexcusable. Like crack replace. That's football 101. That's simple stuff that you should know. Okay, let's just say a young guy's in there and misses his assignment. Okay, fine. But it happened, I believe it happened 3 times. The same type of scheme where we aren't able to do our job, to be able to at least give our defense a solid chance to stop it. They literally walked in the end zone on those plays. So, and then our linebackers look lost in their run fits, in their gaps. They look completely lost. And of course, Proctor ended up going down that game. It was just a bad overall game defensively. We made Oregon look much better than they were because of our defense. Now, obviously, Ryan Day, he couldn't just completely revamp the whole staff and get rid of them mid-season. That's just stupid. But he did make some changes, and we saw some improvement from Barnes taking the helm. But obviously, it still was not enough, which, again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'll get to that. But, yeah, man, that Oregon loss was tough. It was on the defense. There was too much on our young Heisman candidate quarterback to try to save the day, and we almost did. It was a couple calls. It was a couple questionable calls that probably should have went our way. You know what I mean? And I'm not a big blame the ref guy. I'm not. I believe schematically was our biggest issue. Coaching schematically was our biggest issue. And Oregon, they definitely won it. They played hard. They were physical. But I think we contributed to helping them out, being out schemed and outsmarted with just football basics, which is inexcusable anywhere, especially Ohio State. So, yeah. So moving on. Speaking of the defense, so I just kind of wanted to touch back on that. I know some people, some people were even critical on my page about the changes with the staff, and on the flip side, I've heard, scum fans on their board try to say, "Oh, we caused them to replace their defense." No, you didn't. This has become a trend. In 2020, our defense was not up to standard. Okay, let's go back. I know people like to kind of revise history, or they just honestly maybe forgot, but our 2020 defense was poor. So the game plan against Alabama with 4 linebackers and watching Tough Borland get absolutely dog walked down the seam against one of the fastest players since Ted Ginn is embarrassing. The game plan in general, and I know we were missing players. I get that. But the game plan was very, very poor against what Alabama likes to do. And I think that was really Ryan Day was like, oh, I mean, but, you take account COVID year, players missing. I can see the benefit of the doubt. I can see that, you know what I mean? It was just a crazy, wacky year for the whole entire country. And that Alabama team was loaded. So I get it, okay, let's go into next year and see what we can do. But no, it was a trend. And, Coach Combs is a wonderful man, great guy for anybody who's met him. And he's always been an asset for the program in the roles that he's been in. But he clearly was not ready for defensive coordinator position. And that's fine. I mean, that's just the reality of it, So I don't have any thing negative to say about Coach Combs. He just wasn't cut out for that position. And so, so changes had to be made. But the point is, the defense had become a trend for those who think that there might have been some overreaction with the staff changes. So anyway, so moving on, we're going to do part 2 next. We're going to talk about the scum loss and the end of season, how that ended, and how that was ideal considering the situation, the circumstances. But that's going to be the end of part 1, and we're going to move on to part 2. All right.